Under the quiet, starlit sky of Babylon, the greatest conqueror who ever lived lay awake. Alexander the Great, king, warrior, visionary, could not sleep. His vast empire stretched from the green hills of Macedonia to the golden deserts of Egypt, from the lavish Persian palaces to the very edges of India. Yet, on this particular night, his heart felt undeniably heavy. The profound silence of his palace was louder and more deafening than the cries of any battle he had ever won. He rose from his bed, his bare feet cool on the stone floor, and walked to the grand balcony. He looked out over the moonlit gardens of Babylon, a city he had conquered, and wondered if there was anything left in the world to conquer. His spirit, which had once burned with insatiable ambition, now felt like smouldering embers. As he stood there, watching the stars, a deep weariness finally overcame him. Slowly, his eyes grew heavy, and he drifted into a strange and profound dream, one that would change his soul forever. Alexander found himself standing not in his palace, but in a vast, endless plain bathed in a soft, golden light. A peaceful silence, deeper than any he had ever known, surrounded him. Then, from the shimmering mist, a familiar figure began to materialize. It was Aristotle, his old teacher, his mentor. "Master, is that you?" Alexander asked, his voice filled with awe. Aristotle smiled warmly, his eyes holding the wisdom of ages. "You've traveled far, my student. Tell me, have you found what you were searching for?" Alexander's shoulders slumped. "I wanted to unite the world under one banner, one dream. But the more I conquered, the more the world seemed to divide. Then perhaps, my king," Aristotle said gently, "the world was never yours to conquer. Perhaps the true empire lies not across deserts and mountains, but within yourself, within myself," Alexander echoed, confused. "Yes," Aristotle affirmed, "for only those who master their own heart can truly call themselves great." The wind whispered around them, carrying Aristotle's final words into the air. The ground shimmered, the golden plain began to dissolve, and Alexander's vision blurred. Soon he found himself standing before something else entirely. A great river of fire now flowed before him, its roaring flames filled with visions from his past, his triumphs, his regrets, his greatest losses. Alexander stared, mesmerized, into the glowing waters. Within them he saw his own story unfold with brutal clarity. The siege of Tyre, the horrifying crash of stone walls, and the screams of the defeated. The fall of Darius, the great Persian king, humbled and broken. He saw his loyal soldiers marching through desolate deserts, their eyes sunken from exhaustion, their spirits worn thin. Then a more personal memory flickered to life. He saw Cletus, the dear friend who had once saved his life in Battleland. Then he saw his own hand, drunk with wine and rage, striking Cletus down. The vision shifted, and he saw Hephaestion, his closest companion, his other half, lying lifeless. The flames rippled again, showing the faces of thousands upon thousands who had fallen in his name, their eyes empty. "What have I done?" Alexander cried out in anguish. Was it all for nothing? From the heart of the flames, a shadowy figure emerged, its form indistinct and wavering. You ask what you have done. I am what remains of you, the memory that history will keep. Who are you? Alexander demanded, his voice trembling. I am the story they will tell, the figure replied, its voice a hollow echo. They will call you great, but they will never know your heart. Will they remember me as a god? Alexander asked, a flicker of his old pride returning. They will remember your name, but forget your tears. The figure said, its words cutting deep. They will praise your strength, but never know of your sleepless nights. As the figure vanished back into the fire, the river dimmed. The flames turned to smoke, and the smoke cleared to reveal Alexander standing at the foot of a vast mountain, its peak lost in the clouds above. The path was steep and seemingly endless. With each step upward, he felt heavier, as if carrying the weight of his entire life. His gleaming armor clattered against the jagged rocks. His royal crown slipped from his head, and his famous sword dragged uselessly behind him. The higher he climbed, the stronger the wind became, whispering voices from his past of glory, of victory, and of profound loss. Yet, above the storm of memories, one voice called out softly, insistently, "Climb, Alexander, who calls me? Show yourself." He shouted, panting for breath. "Come forward, conqueror of the world," the voice beckoned. Finally, at the summit, he found not a god, but a simple old man sitting calmly upon a rock. His robes were plain, his face weathered, but his eyes were deep with a peace Alexander had never known. "Who are you, old one?" Alexander asked, his own voice now humbled. "I am the guardian of truth," the man replied. "You have conquered men, lands, and kings. But what do you seek here, at the edge of heaven?" "I seek the meaning of my journey," Alexander confessed. "Tell me what it all means." "Look at your hands, Alexander." He looked down and saw they were empty. The sword, the crown, the map of the world, all of it was gone, left behind on the treacherous path. "Everything you built, you cannot take beyond this mountain," the old man said gently. "Empires fade, gold melts, but the light of wisdom remains." "Then tell me," Alexander whispered, his heart aching for an answer, "how do I find this light?" The old man smiled. "Wake up." A sudden, deafening thunderclap shook the world. Alexander gasped and his eyes flew open. He was back in his bed, in his palace in Babylon. The night was calm again. The air smelled of jasmine wafting in from the royal garden. For a moment, he thought it had all been just a dream, yet his heart, once so heavy, felt inexplicably lighter. He rose, stepped out onto the balcony, and looked over the sleeping city. The great Euphrates River shimmered under the moonlight like a ribbon of silver. Torches flickered in the distance, tiny stars in the earthly dark. The empire he had fought and bled for now seemed so small, so finite, compared to the infinite peace he felt stirring within his own soul. "Conquer yourself. Empires fade," he whispered to the night. A faint smile touched his lips, and his eyes grew wet with tears. For the first time, Alexander the Great had found something greater than conquest, understanding. That night, Alexander whispered into the wind, "Greatness is not in ruling the world, but in knowing when to let it go." The torches burned low, and the city of Babylon slept on in peace. If this story touched your heart or helped you find a moment of calm, please stay with us. Subscribe for more sleeping history stories where the greatest souls of the past whisper their dreams directly to you. Thank you for listening.